The next entry to the ENDGAME series, and this time it's portable sources. Hello and thank you for clicking on this video where I'll be sharing my experience on iFi Audio's flagship portable DAC device, and this is the iFi Audio Valkyrie. Huge box considering how portable this device was meant to be, so I'm curious to see what's inside, and most importantly, how does it perform, because this device is an eye-watering $1,700 US. My oh my, so expectations are sky high. But before we dive deeper into this, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank iFi Audio for sending this unit as part of a tour for me to test and share my experience with you. However, as always, all thoughts and opinions are my own and are not influenced by any parties. If you've been enjoying my content, please do consider hitting that like and subscribe button. That will help the channel a lot and I appreciate your support. Going through the unboxing, once you remove the outer box sleeve, you'll be greeted by this beautiful wooden box. I mean, take a look at that. It's got some logo design for the Valkyrie engraved to the box with the naming on it. Big, heavy wooden box, just gorgeous. Such a huge box, and then when you open it and see the device itself, it's like, wow, this whole box just for this? However, it does store a carrying pouch as well, which is your typical pouch with a weave, and inside stores all the accessories, where you have the power outlet with an interchangeable clip-on head. For my unit, it comes with the Australian one, but I'm not sure if you can buy the separate faces if you want to travel to different countries with this. It would be great if there is the option, but you need to connect this to the USB-C adapter since the device only has USB-C input for power. More on that later. Anyway, there's also another box where it stores all the cables, so you've got a really short USB-C to USB-C cable, USB-C to lightning cable, a USB-C to USB-A converter, a DC to USB-C adapter, a Toslink optical adapter, and a really long USB-C to USB-C cable if you want to use this device for a desktop setup. No RCA cables unfortunately, even though this device supports RCA output. Anyway, taking a quick look at the design, this thing is surprisingly small and relatively lightweight. I mean, it would have to be since it's meant to be portable. I guess I had an expectation when I first carried this package, but all that weight from the package is coming from the wooden box rather than this device itself. Just bringing in the iFi Audio Zen DAC V3, I mean, this is still one of my go-to for portable DAC if I'm not bringing a dongle. The Valkyrie is longer than the Zen DAC V3 by about half the size, but they still managed to maintain the width and height as the Zen DAC V3, which to me is a feat of engineering, considering how much power and feature is packed into the Valkyrie. And as an overall, still a relatively compact form factor. It doesn't feel like it's going to bulk up your backpack considering how thin this device is, though I wouldn't just chuck it into your backpack without some protective sleeve. I mean, $1,700 everyone, use the case. Anyway, the iFi Audio Valkyrie just looks cool. It's like some gold spaceship. This thing is going to catch some attention for sure, and it's meant to. I mean, you're paying this much money for the device, it better have its own identity, and it does. Whether you want to catch people's attention to the $1,700 device on the table in terms of safety is another story. It's got that anodized powder coat look to its body, hard lines mixed with curved edges to give it that sleek look. The screen at the top of the device is smaller than I had anticipated. We'll get to what it shows shortly. There are two buttons at the top to toggle the X-Base, X-Space features, and it's also the settings button. There's a button to toggle between 3.5 to 4.4 and IM match at the bottom of the device. Huge silver volume knob in the middle with a smooth ratchet feel to it, so you don't hear the ratchet clicks, but you can feel some give to each level of volume. 4 buttons at the front face panel, and we're just going into the inputs and outputs while we're here. On the right side, you've got the input selector and the K2 HD technology toggle. Then you have the filter button. On the left, you have the 4.4mm at the XMEMS output and the 3.5mm output, and you have 2 LED at the front on each side. Symmetry, baby. You've got the input indicator and audio format on the left, and the X-Base, X-Space, and X-Presence indicators on the right. On the back, starting from the left, you have the USB-C for charging. As mentioned earlier, you have to connect the power to the USB-C to DC adapter to plug into the device and charge it. There's a battery light indicator at the top of it as well, so it goes to different colors depending on your charge. The USB-C next to it is for input. There's the SPDIF input, RCA output, 3.5mm output, 3.5mm line input and output, and a 4.4mm input and output. It's meant to be portable, so it doesn't have something like the XLR inputs and outputs, which is unfortunate for those who would want XLR inputs and outputs, but there's only so much you can stuff in a portable device to begin with. So just running through some of the functions and features of this device, the Valkyrie is equipped with a quad-stack Burr-Brown DAC chips. It can support aptX, lossless, and all other Bluetooth codecs for Bluetooth connectivity. It has up to 20,000 mAh battery, which is a lot, but it's rated to have playback of up to 18 hours, which may not seem like much, but it's meant to power really power-hungry IAMs or even headphones. However, if you're always plugging this and powering it up, then you'd have no concerns about battery life for this device, but at least it'll last you through the flight, if you even have space to put this on your desk. Unless you're flying first class, then hello Valkyrie. It's also rated to have a peak output of 5,700 milliwatts, which for a portable device is more than enough to power most of your IAMs and headphones in your collection. I mean, for context, dongles only go up to hundreds of milliwatts, and we're really close to a dedicated desktop DAC power in a portable fashion. So if you're concerned about power and you don't want to be plugging things to get devices powered on, the iFi Audio Valkyrie will get you covered in that department. Of course, it comes at a hefty price. So talking about button controls, the volume button also acts as the power button. So if you press and hold, it'll turn the screen on. You'll be greeted by a nice little animation from iFi Audio's branding, and then you'll start to see the numbers climb to the dedicated volume. Pressing the volume once will mute and unmute this device. You'll see a few information on screen like the battery life, the volume level, the filter you're in, what features you've toggled, so just running through that as well. Clicking the button on the far right will toggle between different inputs. So you have Bluetooth, coaxial, optical, USB, and line in. If you press and hold that button, it'll toggle off and on the K2 HD feature. Personally, I'm a huge fan of the K2 HD technology, so I generally leave it on. Hitting that button next to it will cycle through the filters, so you've got standard, minimum, bit perfect, GTO, apodizing, transient, align. I mean, I personally still have a really hard time picking out the subtle differences in filters, so I either stick with standard or bit perfect. Long pressing that button cycles through DSD remastering. At the top, the button on the left turns X space on and off, and if you long press it, it'll cycle through the gain, and I'm still not sure why iFi Audio doesn't want to use text instead, so it's easier to recognize, but essentially you have the water sign for low gain, fire for medium gain, and the lightning for high gain. The right button will toggle between X bass and X presence, which is a new feature for me, and toggle both of them on. We'll explore more on this later in the video. You can even turn all of the X bass, X presence, and X bass on if you want to go crazy. Long pressing the right button will open up the settings menu, so running through that. In here you can toggle the DSD remastering, so you've got a few selections to choose from. This is also where you toggle X-Men, so if you've got IMs with that technology, as it can be very hard to drive, so turning this on will help you. You can also adjust the brightness levels, volume sync toggle, Bluetooth pairing mode, Bluetooth voice prompt, dual port charging toggle, battery health mode. You can select the active outputs, auto power off toggle, factory reset, and info. So just talking about the sound of this device, if you're not familiar with iFi audio devices or even the Burr-Brown chips, they are always leaning towards delivering you a warmer sound characteristic compared to the likes of Sabre chips or something like the Moondrop sources. So if you have a cold or lean sounding gear and you want to give it just a hint more warmth, again may not be perceivable to most people, but to people who are sensitive to the subtle changes in sound, then iFi audio sources would lend some of that to your overall presentation. The biggest feature, however, with iFi audio devices is in the X bass and X space feature, and with this device we have the X presence feature. So trying to put it in a simpler context, imagine a ball that is a little hollow. The X bass essentially injects some fullness to that ball, giving it that body, and it increases the strength and impact impact of the overall bass presentation. X-Bass has been around in iFi audio devices and is all about the implementation, and the one on the Valkyrie is, for me personally, almost pushing it a little too much in my opinion. It really brings in the bass presence to the next level, unlike its more subtle iterations in other sources like the Go Bar can say. So if you have a very light hitting gear like your hi-fi mans or even your Let's Sure kinda lever, if you have that, or the really lean sounding IEMs like the Kiwi Ears Quintet or something, the X-Bass feature will bring that bass to those gears. But if you've already got some bass in your IEMs, it will really take it towards that bass hit territory, which can be a good or bad thing depending on your preference. The X-Bass is essentially that ball I've mentioned earlier, but flattening it a little bit. So the overall presentation is pushed back a little, giving you that sense of width, and it also boosts up some of that treble frequency to give it a bit of sharpness, a little bit of attack, so details appear a bit more distinct, a bit more present within the soundstage, hence the illusion of width. This feature is perfect for any gears that are on the fuller side and you just want a bit more space and sharpness to the overall presentation. In comes X-Bass for that. Lastly, you have the X Presence, and this essentially brings not only the vocals but the overall mid-range presentation a little bit more forward, thus giving it that presence. So when you have IEMs that sound like it's pushed back, or if the vocals are within the same plane as the background music and you wished for things to be a bit more intimate, this feature will bring the presentation closer to you. So once you turn all three features on, you'll be greeted by a mixture of all the features above. However, not every IEM will benefit from having all these features turned on. Some may just require the X-Bass feature turned on, some may need the X-Presence with the X-Bass, some may only need the X-Bass feature turned on, and that's the beauty of the versatility of this device. So you have options to play around with your gear without having to delve into the complexity of EQ. So a few examples of IEMs that I loved having some of these features on: Unique Melody Mesh Mark II, the X-Presence feature and X-Bass feature, the Dunu Da Vinci with the X-Bass feature, and Theo Audio Monarch Mark III for all of them. But all IEMs are already great sounding IEM in their own regard, but the iFi Audio Valkyrie just gives your favorite IEMs another dimension to enter and enjoy. So I don't have a lot of portable DACs at this price level to compare it, so I can only bring in other form of portable sources just to note some differences. So you've got DAPs, DAC amp, or even dongles in the portable source space. So bringing up something like the iFi Go Bar can say it's a lot more portable than the Valkyrie, of course. There's a bit of features in the dongle that I absolutely love. I mean, this dongle is my daily driver and I've used this a lot, so I'm familiar with its sound, and for me personally, the dongle is enough. But of course, it won't be powerful to really power the really power-hungry IEMs, and if that's what you're looking for, a dongle just isn't enough. And something like the Valkyrie not only gives you power, but also just a bit more features as well. Bringing in the iFi Audio Zen DAC V3, another great alternative if absolute power is not something that you're seeking for. It has really good X-Bass and X-Bass implementation, so does the Go Bar Kensei dongle, but the Valkyrie just takes it to the next level. And if you're looking for power and ultimate musical enjoyment, the Valkyrie is the likely companion if cost is of no issues, but it comes at the sacrifice of portability in comparison with something like a dongle and also the Zen DAC V3. Lastly, I've seen DAPs go up to thousands of dollars, and in terms of features, the DAP is still going to give you a bit more, but again, Valkyrie still holds its position for power, and with a bigger battery, it might hold a bit longer than DAPs. So then, would this replace your dedicated source at home? Well, for $1,700 you can really purchase something for your home setup that is both feature-packed and as powerful, if not more. Something like the Topping DX9, which I have a video on. That device is a beast. And if I'm going to be doing a desktop setup, I'd be using that instead due to having more inputs, outputs, and power. So in summary, if money is of no issue, I think the iFi Audio Valkyrie is that portable endgame source that you might be looking for. It's got tons of power and feature, and the iFi Audio Valkyrie's X-Bass, X-Space, and X-Presence just provides you with another adventure to your musical journey. And it's just so addictive to play around with. However, for me personally, would I actually want to own this? Well, yes I do, but again, if money is of no issue. But I just can't see myself spending $1,700 and I'm bringing this around, exposed to the risk of the outside world. So as much as I love using the iFi Audio Valkyrie, my heart feels more at ease with my dongles. Otherwise, it's a beautiful looking, powerful device. But as always, this is based on one man's experience and I'm curious to know your thoughts. Have you tried the iFi Audio Valkyrie and what are your experiences like? Comment below and let me know, and with that all said, thank you once again to iFi Audio for sending this unit for me to test. I'm definitely going to miss it, and thank you all for watching.